down posts. We calling back Israel to the hell we know. Throwing out crystals, we don't need these stones. And we ain't no gods, that's a job for y'all. I'll praise to the Most High. I'll praise to the Most High, Yahuwah. I'll praise to the Most High. I'll praise to the Yah Israel. Tearing down idols, we cutting down poles. We calling back Israel to the hell we know. We throwing out crystals, yeah. We don't need these stones. We ain't no gods, that's a job for Yah. We cutting down poles. We're calling back Israel to the hell we know. We throwing out crystals. We don't need these stones. And we ain't no gods. That's a job for y'all. Everybody help me say all praise.
All praise to the Most High.
I can't hear you say.
All praise to the Most High.
All praise. Hey, all praise.
Peace and blessings. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Hopefully everybody's doing well, doing good. Well, hey family, sorry to come to you so late. I tried to get this out earlier, but just kept kicking the can down the road on this one. But it is a very important topic, so I didn't want to delay it any longer. And family, again, you know, we're at this point, and actually let me switch my screen over here. Hang on one second. And while we do that, let me pull up my PowerPoint, the important PowerPoint slide, of course. Let me do this. Let me say PowerPoint. I'm actually just going to label it here so that when I bring it up, I know exactly where it is. So what I'll do here is, let's do slideshow. And I'll do that, and I'll maximize it on the screen. And then let me turn this PDF off so that you guys don't see that just yet. All right, there we go. All right, so family, this is an important topic, and you know, it's one of those things, family, where you know, I'm just trying to make sure that people are aware that even though you're over here, you're minding your own business. You're getting up, you're going to work, taking the kids to school. Just going about your everyday life. Not bothering nobody. But lo and behold, there is a group, a people that are moving in the background against you. And this is one of the things that I want to bring to light, just to make sure that you knew this is what was happening, not only against us in the, what folks will call the African American Israelite group, but this is just for black folks in general across the U.S. Everyone knows about police brutality. And in fact, let me pull up this chart right quick. We all know about police brutality. We all know who has been the primary receivers of police brutality for a very, very long time here in the U.S. And, especially, we had, George Floyd, that incident went worldwide. It was global, particularly at, 2019 and onwards. A lot of that type of, those crimes against our community, were captured, especially with the advent of social media and cell phones and cameras and stuff like that. More and more of that stuff is being caught on camera, and justice is being served, or we're hoping that justice is being served. Sometimes it isn't. Oftentimes it isn't. I'll put it to you that way. But at least at the very least, is being captured. It's being recorded. If you can imagine going back in time to the 1980s, before we even had the cell phones, a lot of this stuff was going on back then, but no one had those devices to capture it, to bring it to light. It was always hearsay. We always heard about those sundown towns. We all heard about certain places you couldn't go, certain police officers that weren't, how can I put it? They weren't receptive to you. Put it to you that way. As a black man, I knew that whenever I got pulled over, I had to have my hands at 10 and 2. 10 and 2. I'll never forget one time in high school, I was on my way back to home from football practice, and it was me and a bunch of guys, a bunch of defensive linemen, and big dudes, right? Big black guys in this little bitty car speeding around 285, and that's if you're not familiar with Atlanta, that's the expressway that goes around the city. It circles the city. It kind of looks like the outside of a clock. And just we were just heading on home right after practice. We were all sweaty and musty in this big guys in this small car. And I will admit I was going a little fast, family. I was going a little fast, and I drove right past a state trooper. Young man drove right past a state trooper. So state trooper pulled right behind me, and he got out, and it was another brother. I think his name was Jackson, if I remember correctly, looking at his badge. Big guy too. He was bigger than all of us. And he comes up to the car. He's like, "Sir, you know why I pulled you?" I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Can I have your license and registration?" So of course, back then you had to have your insurance card either in your glove compartment. I know some people they might keep it in the sun visor. I had mine in the glove compartment. And family, I was nervous, even though I had my friends in there. I was nervous, so I quickly reached over to my glove compartment to pull it out, and the police officer put his hand on his gun and he jumped back. He's like, "Reach easy, boy." He said, "Reach easy." Man, family, that officer almost pulled his gun on us. And I never forget, family. So, of course, I get the ticket, and he pulls off, and they into a glove. But what about those of our brothers and sisters that sort of situation happened, and the police officer was of a different persuasion? Those types of situations, unfortunately, haven't gone well for us, family. Let's be honest. It hasn't gone well for us. So we know about the tough policing that takes place in our neighborhoods. And so one of the things I came across, family, and that is we came across that there was a organization out there that was actually sending off police officers to Israel. Not only were they were training them, They were training these police officers, and of course, being of of the ethnicity that has been the target or the victims of police brutality, we should be, I'm paying attention to this. When I saw this, I was paying attention to it, especially when I found out it was none other than the ADL. And for me, this set off alarm bells. Why? Well, because the ADL terms us or they identify us as extremists. Now, many of you may not be familiar with Project Megiddo. Now, that was a project back in the day where groups like the ADL were feeding information to the FBI about groups and stuff like that. I believe this was right before the year 2000. And they were giving them information about these groups that they deemed dangerous, groups that they categorized as extremists. And so guess who was on that list, family? Guess who was on that list that the ADL was feeding to the FBI? Yes, you guessed it. They put Black Hebrew Israelites. That was the group that was in their list. Now, again, family, Hebrew Israelites weren't bothering anybody. You were minding your own business, going to work, getting up, taking your kids to school, just trying to get along with everybody, right? But lo and behold, there was this entity, this group that was working against you even back then, back in the 80s and the 90s, still. And we had no clue that they were doing this. So, and this is, it's one thing, family, when you know that someone has something against you, but it's another thing when they're secretive about it. I mean, if you think about it at work, if you're at work and you know that one of your coworkers or your manager has it out for you. I mean, they expressed it out to you. They were like, man, you know what? I just don't like you. Or, you know what, young lady, I just don't like you. At least they got it out in front. At least, at that point in time, okay, well, I'm going to keep my eye on you. Right. But it's another thing when they don't come out and tell you that they don't like you, or it's another thing that they don't tell you that they are saying, all these bad things about you behind your back. This is the situation that we find ourselves in, family. And especially with, the Black community as a whole, with this group that's moving against the Black community as a whole. And again, family, when they're sending off police officers over to Israel, this, again, family, this does not just impact our community. This impacts all the Black communities. And this is why, everybody should be upset. Like the Christians, the Muslims, anybody of color, they should be upset about this. And you wonder why. And people have said things like, with all this, how can I put it, family? With all of this persecution going on against the Black community, Blacks are getting frustrated. In fact, let me play this video for you right quick, family, just to show you that we've seen, of course, we've captured this in rap songs for the longest, but I like the way this brother put it together. So check this out. Oh, hang on. Let me move this around here. I'm going to close this out and move this up. So let me stop that one. And I'm going to start that.
You know what? Tell me. It come like if the mainstream news ain't showing Ibrahim and Sahel, like no one don't know what's going on. It's true. Okay, let's take them back to school with it. Let's take them back. First things first, I speak different. Unapologetic truth seep into your ligaments. Let's talk about our leaders, how they've been killing them, and why we say it's war if you think you can speak to Ibrahim. Now there was Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso, painted this picture of freedom, Black Picasso. He was freeing minds of everyone over Dasso. In 1987 they killed him because he was black. Now there's Patrice Lumumba, Donny was from Congo, fought for independence from Belgium. Was he wrong though? First democratically elected president in 1961. They killed him cause his message was too strong, yo. We all know Gaddafi. Donny was from Libya. Tried to start his own currency with his own insignia. West didn't like how big it was, so in 2011 they lit him up. Yeah, the truth, we gon' dig it up. It's Steve Biko, Black Consciousness Movement. The white supremacists in South Africa couldn't move him. In 1977, they sent the racist Fred to arrest him, but they beat him to death instead. Okay, Sylvanus Olympio, Donny was from Togo. Simmers Ibrahim, he told the French they should go home. He was tired of seeing his country in a chokehold. In 1963, they analyzed his blow. Richard Ratsimanjava from Madagascar. 6 days after he turned president, we're like, nah. The same colonial French won't go to the yard. In 1975, they unalived the star. So before you run your mouth, make sure you know your history, bro. That 6 that I just picked was out of 60, bro. Why black people so amped up's no mystery, bro. Touch one more of our leaders, my peeps gon' let it go. Before you run your mouth, make sure you know your history, bro. That 6 that I just picked was out of 60, bro. Why black people so amped up's no mystery, bro. Touch one more of our leaders, my peeps gon' let it go.
And no sound. Thank you. Thank you, Timothy Davis. I'm over here talking away. Yeah, peace and blessings, family. Fair use. Thanks for that. But again, family, we as a black community family, we have to keep an eye on these communities that are attacking our communities, that are doing, either through policies or some sort of initiative where they are doing things that adversely impact our community. So in this case, we have our eyes on what the ADL is doing with the police officers in our community. Because of course, when folks looked at this and they saw that they were sending police officers not to training centers here in the US, but they were actually sending them over to the state of Israel. Family, why? The first thing that should come up is why, family. Well, and of course, we kind of talked about this the last time we were on, when we were talking about how this shadow organization over in Israel was attacking black folks over here in the States. Of course, the ones that had, the ones that were, voicing their displeasure with the state of Israel or their government or their practices. So you had this organization that was over in the state of Israel attacking us over here. And one of the things we brought out was the reason why they were doing that, family, was they are in a place, or they feel that they're in a place where they can't get touched, where our legal system is hindered because they are not in this country. So likewise, when a police officer is trained here, we have this thing called the Freedom of Information Act, where we can request to have visibility or to have access to some of the material that's being taught in these settings. In fact, with the African Israelite Justice Foundation, you all may not have known, but when we heard of this, probably I want to say a year or two ago, one of the things that I did personally was submit or request a Freedom of Information Act request to get access to the data, to the information that the ADL particularly, specifically, and like groups were teaching the police officers, because we wanted to know what they were teaching the police officers. I believe this was shortly after George Floyd. Haven't heard back from him yet, but we at least submitted the information. But the fact that we see them sending them off to Israel shows us a couple of things. One is it shows us that they are aware of this level of access that we can get. So therefore, if they send the police officers out of the country to train them, then therefore they don't have to divulge or reveal what they trained them. Now, let me go through a couple of these slides, family. I just want to share some facts for you, because when we look at the police officers, actually, let me see, family. Do I have that slide here? Yeah, let me show this. Let me show you this other slide. Let me bring this other slide up. I'm going to close this one out. You might not be able to see this one. I'm going to see if I can zoom in. So what you're looking at, family, and hang on. I'm going to close this, get rid of that search bar. All right, so this is supplemental data from the FBI's website and hate crime statistics, and you can see it there, family, 2021. Now, I will tell you up front that this data has gone through different changes, because I know when I pulled this information like 2 or 3 years ago, the numbers were different. Because how do I know that? Well, I know it because the order of groups impacted is different. Because I remember specifically, and I actually do have screenshots of course, the African American / Black community was always at the top of the list. Even in this list, we're still at the top of the list. But the Jewish community, their crimes were at number 4. They were like 4th down on the list. Well, they had this big updating of the information, all right, reevaluation of the information, and they supplemented the information. And of course, the Jewish community went from 4 up to 2. But still, the point here, family, that I want to show to you here is, when it comes to hate crimes here, specifically here in the States, there's no surprise that, let me find us here. There's no surprise who is at the top of the list. So here is like crimes against persons, right? And you see it here, race, ethnicity. Let me zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. Race, ethnicity. And here is what you see. Anti-Black or anti-African American. Number 1, numero uno, race, ethnicity. And I thought it was interesting, family, because you don't see the Jewish community on this list. They are a notable absentee on this list for race, ethnicity, ancestry. Isn't that interesting? They are not listed here, but they are listed under religion. What are they trying to say? What do they know that many don't know? They aren't listed as race. They are listed as a religion. Learn something on your way to learn something. So aside from that, the numbers of those impacted, let's see, total offenses, African Americans, numero uno, number 1. Do we have anti-Black laws? Do we have anti-African American laws? Anti-African American hate speech laws? So why doesn't the number 1 impacted ethnicity, the receivers of hate in the U.S., not have a anti-hate law, an anti-African American law, but the number 2, previously number 4 group does? Think about that, family. Think about how unfair that is. How they get to skip the race of people that went through slavery, right? Still at the tippy top of police brutality, but we don't have those laws. So that's one thing, family. So just wanted to show you that in this list, we are still number 1, unfortunately. Now, we know about the curses of Deuteronomy 28. We know that according to the laws, and us breaking those laws, statutes, and commandments, that these, what we're saying, family, is just it's the result of the curse upon our community. We understand that. And to that end, these numbers actually testify to the Most High. The fact that we are number 1 testifies that the Most High said what he said, and he did what he was going to do. Hallelujah. Now, let me jump back over to the PowerPoint, because I just want to show you just a few things. Again, fam, I didn't want to keep you too long today, But let's pull this back up because I just want to show you this real quick. And what we're talking about, family, is let me go back over to the slide. There we go. Yeah, what we're talking about here is the practice of sending police officers over to Israel, and is by none other than your friendly neighborhood ADL. Friendly neighborhood ADL. And it's interesting because according to the scriptures, it says, and I am very sore displeased with the heathen. This is Zechariah chapter 1, verse 15. This is the Most High saying this. And it says, and I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease. For I was but a little displeased, but they forward the affliction. In other words, they took it too far. And here what we're saying, family, is that there's a people, according to the scriptures, that are furthering the affliction. They are taking it too far. They keep persecuting the Most High's people. And to that end, let's take a look. And this is an article where you can see the ADL is literally sending police officers over to Israel. Now, this is a little bit further down on the article, and just to kind of fill in the blanks here. This is speaking about there were riots that were part of the Ferguson protest. And during those riots, there was tear gas fired at the activists. And what they found was that when they took a look at the canisters of tear gas that were fired at these black folks that were protesting, they found that the tear gas was the same tear gas that was fired in Gaza, or the same tear gas that was fired at the Palestinian people. Why would the police officers have the same tear gas that was used by the 1948ers in Israel, in the state of Israel? It's because the ADL is sending them there, as we stated before. But let's go ahead and read this, family. It says, 3 years before the Ferguson protest, Tim Fitch, the chief of the very same St. Louis County Police Department, so this is St. Louis, responsible for firing tear gas at activists concerned citizens, had flown to Israel to receive training from Israeli police, intelligence, and military. Now, why would a local police officer go to the state of Israel to receive training from their military? I mean, does our police officers receive training from our military? If they're not receiving training from our military, why are they going to the state of Israel to receive training from their military that are being accused of human rights violations and all sorts of stuff in Gaza, right? All sorts of stuff in Gaza. And here you can see it, family, where it says that training was organized by who else? The Anti-Defamation League, which has conducted its national counterterrorism seminar in Israel since 2004. So let me get this, family. So since 2004, they were sending your police officers over into the state of Israel. 2004. I mean, I wasn't even awake to me being Israel in 2004. You know, we were just regular old folks going back and forth, right? Trying to live our lives. But we didn't know that the Anti-Defamation League was sending our police officers over to Israel to train and then come back to our communities to police our communities. If we knew that, we would have been protesting in the streets. And then it says the seminar, which is focused on riot suppression, counterinsurgency, and counterterrorism. Now, again, family, what you'll notice, family, as we go through this, is that what they are training them to do doesn't fit what the police officers, the environment that the police officers are in. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they are in the black neighborhood, why are they being trained on counterinsurgency and counterterrorism? Who's being labeled as counterterrorists, or not, or who's being labeled as terrorists? Let me put it to you that way. Well, I guess to answer that question, let me switch pages here. Let me switch, see if I can pull this up. Family, let's go to, let me do that. And I'm going to go over to a web browser. So on this web browser, let's go. Oh, I know what I did. I decided not to pull it up. Yeah, I'm just going to talk through it instead of pulling it up, because on the ADL's website. But basically, family, on the ADL's website, what you'll find is that, of course, they have Black Hebrew Israelites listed on their website as extremists. And as I spoke about Project Megiddo earlier, so Project Megiddo referred to the ADL sending putting Black Hebrew Israelites on a list of extremists or terrorists for the FBI to watch. And of course, we didn't know about it. They were doing it secretly again. They were going behind our back secretly, and they were sending it over to the FBI. And so when they're doing this training, and they're doing this training, and they're saying, well, it's counter-terrorists. Well, according to the ADL, we know who's on that list. We know who's on their extremist list. We are. And even though it's interesting, family, because even though many of us weren't awake back then, they were still taking these tactics to our community. Like it is here, it says the seminar, which is focused on riot suppression, counterinsurgency, and counterterrorism, attracts a variety of attendees, including local police, immigration enforcement agency. Check this out, family, and even campus police. Why would your campus police officers be going to the state of Israel and being trained by their military, who has human rights violations issues, who's in the middle of committing a genocide? Why in the world would your campus police officers be sent over there for training? That should be a red flag. It says, in fact, The Intercept reported that hundreds of law enforcement executives, now these are the executives, so you might have a police officer out there that says, well, wait a minute, I didn't go over there. They're sending over the executives. And, of course, you know about all these people of Congress going over to Israel, taking these trips to Israel. They're trying to send these influencers over to Israel to take a trip to Israel. And most high willing, I have a special report on that. And to tell you, just to bring some of that forward here, family, is what people aren't realizing is that when they bring people over into Israel, they usually bring them over to this place called the King David Hotel. The King David Hotel used to be the headquarters for the Israel government. It used to be the headquarters for the Israeli army. And what's happening is that they're taking people over to these places, and Benjamin Netanyahu's personal chef, the person that usually cooks for him for heads of states, he'll usually operate out of the King David Hotel. And then he's feeding these people that come over. And and the first thing that popped in my mind is like, so what are they putting in the food? What are they feeding them? What are they what kind of chemicals are they putting in their room? And are these people that when they come back, are they being tested to make sure that nothing was done to them? Are they being tested to make sure that nothing was put in their blood? Did they eat some nanobots? Right? When they put that spoon full of food in their mouth, do their eyes blink red, and all of a sudden they nod in acceptance, in conformity? Is that what happens? Right? I'm telling you, family, there's something about them trying to get them specifically over to Israel so that you can eat their food and be subject to whatever they're subjecting them to, whether it be, some sort of chemical, some sort of, mind control, who knows? But the one behavior that we do know is that once they come back, they have this new spin view on life. When they come back, they're like a totally different person. That should have set off alarm bells a long time ago. And then the other thing that you're noticing that is like people that don't go, They're the ones that are pushing back on all this, Israel first type stuff that's going forth here in the States, in the U.S. And those that haven't gone, they are being pressured to go to Israel just for a visit, so that you can eat the bug, what I call eat the bugs. Eat the bug in the food, cause those eyes to blink, stick you on the plane, get you back over here in the States, and do the bidding of the state of Israel. That's my theory, family. But I can tell you, family, that there are some common denominators. These people are being fed at certain locations. These people are being housed at certain locations. There was also, I want to say, a testimonial from, I believe it was like a senator or a House representative, where he came back early to his room and somebody was in his room. Was he putting something in his room? What was he doing? So that sort of stuff should have been vetted out a long time ago, family. And the fact that every single time a senator or somebody in the government, before they become a senator or House Speaker or House Representative, they send them to Israel. And who sends them to Israel? The ADL. Same people, the ADL. And just to come back to the police officers here and the police training. And again, this isn't every single police officer, family. These are the chiefs, the leaders that they're sitting over there. And again, they are being trained by the same organization that is wrapped up in genocide, same organization that has numerous human rights violations worldwide, right? World recognized human rights violations. And just to show you the article here, Israel security forces are training American cops despite history of rights abuse. The U.S. law enforcement officials on tour with the ADL also met with Israeli police special patrol units known as Yassam, paramilitary riot police, whose excessive force and abuse of Palestinians is well documented. They're training those police officers and then sending them to your black communities. I dare say, family, there's an organization or people out there that don't seem to like you very much. And it says the controversial program that connects American law enforcement officers with police leaders and members of the military in Israel in 2020. Internal document reveals the ADL, which works closely with U.S. police on trainings related to bias and hate crimes. Well, wait a minute. Who was the number one person on the hate crimes list? Let's go back to that, fam. Let me just show you that real quick. Who was number one on the hate crimes list? You remember this number? We are number one on the hate crimes list. So why aren't they training them how to protect us? And why are they sending them to Israel? Again, family, this does not add up at all. And it says the ADL, which works closely, has for years run a program that sends delegations from U.S. law enforcement departments to Israel to study firsthand Israel's tactics and strategies to combat terrorism. So is there terrorism in our communities, family? Why would the ADL be training our police officers how to combat terrorism in our communities? I'm telling you, family, there's an organization that don't like you very much. And it says the trips have long faced criticisms from U.S. civil rights groups who argue that the trainings could encourage U.S. police to further militarize their forces and exacerbate police violence. It says a draft memo obtained by The Guardian and Jewish Currents shows that amid the George Floyd protests in 2020, Two ADL executives questioned whether the trips could make American officers more likely to use force and contribute to the problem of police brutality. They considered advocating for terminating the program. So during that's what was happening behind the scenes during the George Floyd incident, family. When the protests were happening for during the George Floyd protests, the ADL was like, you know what, we might have to stop this program because it could be contributing to the problem of police brutality. They knew what was going on, family. They knew what was going on. And just to kind of close things out, families, because again, like I said, I'm not going to keep you long, family. Just wanted to share this with you, that when we take a look at who has gone over there now, this is not by any stretch of the imagination a comprehensive list. This is just a short, abbreviated list of just some of the people that have gone over there. But just to show you that it's at the federal, state, and local level. And so at the federal level, the folks that we've seen going over there, Michael A. Mason, assistant director in charge at the FBI Washington. You can see FBI Counterterrorism Division went. Assistant Administrator Chief of Operations, the DEA, went over there to Israel to be trained. The assistant director of the ATF was over there. U.S. Marshal Services, NCIS, Department of Homeland Security, ICE Homeland Security Investigations, courtesy of the ADL. All the ICE stuff you see the ICE raids, family, where they're just snatching people and they're keeping them in those God, what people would say God awful concentration camps. You can thank, this says ADL NCTS for that. That's where they got trained from. That's where they learned to do that. And then kind of just jumping down to, you can see state officials, state police officers, the commissioner of the state police officer, the superintendent of the Maryland State Police Officer, the assistant deputy superintendent of New York State Police, Colorado State Patrol, Georgia Department of Public Safety. That's my hometown now. Why would the Georgia Department of Public Safety be sent over to Israel? Family, we had no clue that this was happening. None whatsoever. And this was in 2007, so I was fully a Christian back then. So even then, family, I had no clue that they were sending, our police officers over there. And then just to close this out, local and regional, right? And you can see Austin Police Department. These are local, the police department's family. Chicago, the police department. Las Vegas. LA should be on here somewhere. Yeah, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. But the LA Police Department, you got Compton and all these other places over there. Seattle, the police department. Montgomery Police Department. So family, they have been making their rounds, family. So let's take stock at what's going on. So we see that, one, like we talked about earlier, family, not in this podcast, but in a different one, we talked about how there was an organization out there. Canary Mission was one of many, because Canary Mission isn't the only one, but Canary Mission. Oh, and you also saw that Canary Mission also targeted, I think her name was Anna from the Young Turks. They also targeted her and tried to do the same thing to her, and they threatened violence upon her as well. So Canary Mission, who is based also out of Israel, they aren't a registered nonprofit or for-profit organization here in the States. They are run by Megamot Shalom, which is based out of Jerusalem in Israel, in the state of Israel. And they are targeting people in our community. They literally have a page or a campaign against our community. So we talked about that. And of course, that campaign is to go after people's jobs and to get them unemployed. That's their whole mission. And to, dox them, get them unemployed. That's their mission. We have videos of Jonathan Greenblatt saying, this was like about 3 or 4 years ago, that their next mission was to go after people's finances. That was out of Jonathan Greenblatt's, the ADL's own mouth. So if you're wondering who's part of that that part of the attack against our community, the ADL is part and parcel along with that. I literally have the video for that. And then so now we're talking about the police officers. Of course, this is just another problem that our community has dealt with for the longest. And to find that the ADL has had their hands in that. And I got to tell you, family, when you look at when the ADL was founded, they were founded by an organization called B'nai B'rith. And B'nai B'rith, when the month before they founded the ADL, they were literally talking about black folks being the target, or should be being the target of police officers. Talking about the police officers know black folks very well. And then they formed the ADL the very next month. You can't make this stuff up, family. So if you're wondering, why would the ADL start sending your police officers over to Israel for training? Well, it was there from the very beginning. Their founding organization made those disparaging remarks from the very beginning. It was always like that, family. And also, family, most high willing, what we'll talk about next is, so we've got the policing of the community. Of course, you have, the APAC organizations that are moving against our community. So maybe we'll talk about that next, to show you how APAC also has been detrimental to the black community as well. And then the other thing we'll talk about is shadow banning, because a lot of content creators like myself, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, people have complained about being shadow banned. Believe me, family, there are thousands, if not millions, of us out in these social media streets. But when you do a video, it only goes out to 2 people. Why is that? Well, guess who's in the middle of it again? That's right, the ADL. The ADL had been working with the social media platforms for the longest. But the other thing that you also need to know, family, is that the organization, in addition to the ADL, that is literally sending list of, they're sending list of channels and videos daily, if not whatever that cadence is, family. They are sending it from Israel, not just anywhere in Israel. They're sending it from the government of Israel to YouTube, from the government of Israel to Facebook. Yes, we got the receipts on that, family. So again, family, why are you're being attacked on your voice, your ability to communicate? You're being attacked in your policing, right? You're being attacked on your jobs. And what you're going to find, family, is that it all traces back to the same foul root. And this is what we're bringing out, family. This is what I'm bringing out, just to let you know that you got a fight on your hands. You've been fighting for a long time, but you didn't know it, and you didn't know who. So most high willing, family, we are going to put some names and faces to to this movement, this effort, this initiative, this agenda that has been going against our community for years. And most high willing, we can reposition ourselves to fight against it. But it's one thing to know that you have an enemy out there that's moving against you. It's another thing to know that you don't have an enemy moving against you, or where it's coming from. So what we're saying is that we're starting to see where it's coming from. And ironically, family, just to kind of put the bow on the whole the shadow banning thing, about how literally the Israel government is sending lists to YouTube for shadow banning people. Did you notice that during the 12-day Iran-Israel war, that when Iran was targeting different things, different buildings over in Israel, how I believe one of the strikes was like their cyber center, and that was like the center that does some of this stuff. They destroyed that center. Did you know that all of a sudden your views during the war shot up? You may not have noticed. I know me and Pastor Kelly noticed it. We were just joking, like, oh man, what my views went up. All of a sudden, it seemed like overnight. When they were shooting those rockets back and forth, Iran knew exactly what to hit. They actually hit one of the missiles landed in their what they call the cyber village over in Israel. And your views went up. Then the war ended. They kind of recalibrated. Then all of a sudden your views went back down. To me, that's confirmation of where this attack is coming from. So I wouldn't be surprised because, the new war, Israel's saying that they're going to go back to war with Iran in the near future. I wouldn't be surprised if when it kicks off again, you'll see your views and all that stuff go back up unless they made some adjustments to it. That's just my thoughts on that, family. Somebody said Mossad headquarters. Yep, they hit Mossad headquarters, but it was also I have the preliminary documents for it. Like I said, most high willing, that actually there might be a good follow-up video to do on this one, is to show you the exact organization that's doing that. So yeah, we'll put that on the calendar. But all right, family. Well, that's it, family. Like I said, I just wanted to bring that out just to let you know that yes, indeed, they are sending your police departments over to Israel for training, and like it said, for counterterrorism, to treat them to show them how to treat you. Even campus police are going to the military police, the Israel police, the Israel military, for training, which is just ridiculous, family. So to that end, family, now we know who to pray against, whose yoke upon our necks. We need pray that the Most High breaks, right? And of course, what the Most High does, he returns that recompense upon their own head. Whatever devices that they've come against us with, ends up, the Most High turns it back upon them sevenfold. So if they're wondering what their end's going to be, all they have to do is look to see what they've done to us, and that's what their end's going to be. This is why when you see things like in Scripture where it talks about the Most High says, "Well, I will sell your sons and your daughters to the sons of Judah," right? Why is that? Why is the Most High saying that? Well, that's because that's what they did. So that recompense is coming upon their own head. Hallelujah. All right, family. Well, that's it, family. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Hopefully I didn't keep you up too late. Apologies for delaying this video, but just wanted to get this out, family, just so that you know what was being done, and Most High willing, we'll come back at a later time to figure out as a community what we can do to combat against it. Hallelujah. And actually, normally I'll close out with all praises to the Most High, but before I do that, I'm gonna bring that brother back on just to close it out. And like we said, fair use.
You know what? It come like if the mainstream news ain't showing Ibrahim and Sahel, like no one don't know what's going on. It's true. Okay, let's take them back to school with it. Let's take them back. First things first, I speak different. Unapologetic truth seep into your ligaments. Let's talk about our leaders, how they've been killing them, and why we say it's war if you think you can speak to Ibrahim. Now there was Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso, painted this picture of freedom, Black Picasso. He was freeing minds of everyone over Dasso. In 1987 they killed him because he was black. Now there's Patrice Lumumba, Donny was from Congo, fought for independence from Belgium. Was he wrong though? First democratically elected president in 1961, they killed him because his message was too strong, yo. We all know Gaddafi, Donny was from Libya, tried to start his own currency with his own insignia. West didn't like how big it was, so in 2011 they lit him up. Yeah, the truth, we gon' dig it up. It's Steve Biko, Black Consciousness Movement. The white supremacists in South Africa couldn't move it. In 1977 they sent a racist Fred to arrest him, but they beat him to death instead. Okay, so Vagus Olympio, Donny was from Togo. Simmers Ibrahim, he told the French they should go home. He was tired of seeing his country in a chokehold. In 1963 they analyzed his blow. Richard Ratsimanjava from Madagascar. 6 days after he turned president, we're like, nah, the same colonial French won't go to the yard. In 1975 they unalived the star. So before you run your mouth, make sure you know your history, bro. That 6 that I just picked was out of 60, bro. Why black people so amped up's no mystery, bro. Touch one more of our leaders leaders, my peeps gon' let it go. Before you run your mouth, make sure you know your history, bro. That 6 that I just picked was out of 60, bro. Why black people so amped up's no mystery, bro. Touch one more of our leaders, my peeps gon' let it go.
Hallelujah. Well, again, family, and also just want to reiterate that this is one of the things that the ADL has tried to portray our community as a violent, some sort of violent organization. And of course, what we tell people is that, there is no doctrine, no teaching of violence in our organizations. As far as I know, I've been in this walk since 2016. I guess in some eyes that could still be considered a new foundling, a baby, right? And I've been a part, blessed to be a part of different, assemblies and organizations. And in each of those, never, ever, ever have I ever heard any messages of violence. Never, ever. Because why? Because we believe in Torah. Why? Because, you got the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery. You guys know them, right? So those are the core tenets, foundations of our beliefs. And to say that we are some sort of, lawbreakers, goes against our the core teachings of our beliefs, right? And so this is why, these slanderous campaigns that we see organizations like the ADL and others are trying to pull against our assemblies, why they are in fact, while they are in fact, slanderous, and most High willing at one point in time, at some point in time, I believe that there's some legal action that needs to take place. So anyway, but all right, family, peace and blessings. Love you, family. And we will talk to you later. And shalom.
Tearing down idols and we cutting down posts. We calling back Israel to the hell we know. Throwing out crystals, we don't need these stones, and we ain't no gods. That's a job for y'all. I'll praise to the Most High. I'll praise to the Most High, Yahuwah. I'll praise to the Most High. I'll praise to the Yah Israel. Tearing down idols, we cutting down poles. We calling back Israel to the hell we know. We throwing out crystals, yeah. We don't need these stones. We ain't no gods. That's a job for y'all. Yeah. All praise. Who we say? All praise. Hey, all praise. Sing it again, all praise. Let's lift up a praise to Yah, yeah. All praise. Listen, we won't go the way of the pagan. We don't need no potions or sages. We won't let your word be forsaken. Even if we're hated, we don't need no potions. We won't let your word. No, even And we cutting down poles. We calling back Israel to the L we know. We throwing out crystals. We don't need these stones. And we ain't no gods. That's a job for y'all. Everybody help me say all praise.
All praise to the Most High.
I can't hear you say.
All praise to the Most High.
All praise, all praise.
To the Most High.
Hey, all praise.